Good morning, everybody. We'll wait for everybody to get in. So nice to be here with you this morning. Mm. So let's meditate. Take your attention inside. So one very important thing I want to share, which maybe you already know, but everything that we need for our inner growth is already contained within us. What happens is that when we focus inside with the intention of allowing and an openness and desire for clarity, the frequencies that need our attention will begin directing our path. But that opening, allowing all previous judgments, all preconceived ideas of what our work is, allowing that to fall away and really seeking a different clarity from all past prejudice and allowing that to lead our path will point us toward freedom. And so it's all about intention and intensity of dedication to that intention to be liberated. So it's not an intention to live out our preconceived idea of what liberation is, or any preconceived idea about anything. It is really about allowing ourselves to be infused with our own inner purpose. And that's not something that comes from our mind or from our previous experience. It comes from a much, much deeper place than that, which is the source of everything in existence. And so we can't even imagine what that is with our mind. And where we experience it from in ourselves is also beyond our previous understanding, or we would already be living from there. So we are excavating in service to that yearning, that longing for union with that which we have not yet met in ourselves. And that's as articulate as we can be about guidance for meditation. And yes, the chakras and the channels are important to cultivate because that is the spiritual mechanism through which our life experience expands in the inner dimensions. And through awakening those chakras and channels within ourselves, we begin to access that which is beyond ordinary experience. Living from the spiritual body, the spiritual dimension of awareness, we're going to put a period after that. But that too is a step. It's dipping a toe in the vast ocean of what is truly available to human beings. And when all of our energy is, tangled up in who did what to whom and what's going to happen next. What one of our teachers used to call the mantra of stupidity, what's going to happen to me? When all of our energy is wrapped up in those endeavors, there's hardly anything left. For the exploration of inner space. We are the internal astronauts of our lifetime. So we can think of the third eye as a cave just above the junction of the hard palate and the soft palate above our tongue. You can feel with your tongue along the hard palate, the bony surface, and you just feel back, and suddenly you will notice that there is a drop off on the roof of your mouth where the tissue goes from hard to soft. And directly above that junction is the third eye. And it's near all the important stuff like the pineal gland and the hypothalamus, which runs our hormone system. our relationship with day and night, and the power of our energy all comes from that location anatomically. So you can do a simple practice focusing the Om sound internally in that space and just holding your attention there as much as possible. And there's no problem. Everyone's mind wanders. Just bring it back whenever you notice. And we'll say, just make your exhale longer than your inhale. When you're ready, holding your attention inside, allow your eyes to open. How may we serve this morning? How may we serve Yes.
Good morning. That was a really wonderful meditation. Thank you for that.
Mm, you're welcome.
Mhm.
I'm glad it speaks to you.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, um, it's really ever since the last week, just the um, connection or the differential between us as source and us as doing, living beings with things to fulfill and stuff to do is always a challenge. But it's nice to be aware of that.
It doesn't have to take everything.
Right.
If we start every day paying attention to what's really important, and we end every day paying attention to what's really important, then our sleep begins to have a different character. One of the things that has changed for Rebecca is if you sleep on the right side, I don't know if she talked about this last week, don't remember. But if you sleep on the right side is the Pingala, the hot energy that keeps us alert and awake and focused and driven and all the things that work very well for us in our daily life, but that we need to quiet at night. They're all on the right side. So if we sleep on our right side, we will be naturally invigorating the Ida, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, uh, which is the left side, directly related to the left nostril and the right nostril. The right nostril is the Pingala, the left nostril is the Ida. And the Sushumna is the central channel. These are three energetic channels, main energetic channels. The Sushumna is the big one. That's the central channel that it it it's not the equivalent of the central nervous system. It's way more than that. But it is the central channel of the spiritual mechanism that is within us. And the Ida and the Pingala are the two serpents that wrap around. And then in the caduceus, the image of the caduceus, they face each other at the top. And that's very similar to the uh, these spaces where the cerebrospinal fluid flows in the brain. None of the pictures, the anatomical pictures actually show it with that view because they're all about identifying the structures outside of the space, the fluid space. There's no consideration to the fact that the fluid within the space is actually the liquid light that is the junction between the spiritual and the material. This is the foundation of the understanding of cranial osteopathy, is that by reintroducing flow to stuck parts of the body, reestablishing that creates the capacity for healing, because without flow, there can't be healing. So pulling the obstructions out of the system so that the cellular connection can be reestablished. So meditating is very, very similar to that. We are focusing on connecting to our spiritual being and participating in the flow that already exists underneath our daily awareness. So today's the full moon. Moon is in Scorpio, and Scorpio is the sign of inner transformation, sign that has the most in the natural zodiac. It's the eighth house. And the eighth house is about inner transformation. And that sense of discontent that is often the foundation of transformation. The desire for inner peace in that discontent. Yes.
I had heard that the full moon was in Sagittarius.
Uh, that's Western astrology.
Ah, yeah, I thought that might be.
Western astrology is almost 24 degrees ahead of, it's called sidereal zodiac as opposed to the Western zodiac. And it has built into it accommodations for the, it's really the axis of the Earth and the moon that has a wobble in it. And so it creates a variation in time and space that amounts to 4 minutes a year. But if one doesn't make up for that variation in time and space, then every 72 years, it's a degree off from uh, where the planets actually are in relationship to the Earth. And so over time, it gets further and further apart. And since a sign is 30 degrees, it's nearly a whole sign off now. So it doesn't matter in many ways because, well, I can't begin to talk about Western astrology because I haven't studied it. But I can say that the people who have studied it deeply, they understand prediction in a very different way. Vedic astrology is very straightforward about prediction uh, because if you have accurate data, you can make pretty accurate predictions if you know what you're doing. I am not at that stage, but because predicting it involves understanding the chart in front of you and how that interacts with the chart that's changing every day as the planets move through space and time. And so one always has to study the chart of the day to know how it's going to interact. And so you can see the number of variables that are constantly changing. So one of my teachers calls it astral chess. What, being an astrologer. Because of course all the pieces move at different speeds. The planets don't move at the same pace. But one of the most valuable insights from studying astrology is that so much of what happens in our lives has nothing to do with us. It's not that it has nothing to do with us. It is beyond our capacity to exert any influence over what happens to us. And so the idea that we can control our experience, the more we know, the more we see that controlling our experience is futile. The idea is an exercise in futility. We cannot control our outer experience. The only thing we have any control over is our inner experience, and that also is deeply impacted by the planets. The moon, for example, in Vedic astrology is responsible for a lot of our feeling state, and the moon is constantly changing. The moon moves at a very consistent pace, very quickly. It goes through a 30-degree sign in 3 days. So the moon is always changing radically. The influences that are put on it because of its motion through the stars, underneath the stars. And the stars are the stars, nakshatra actually means star. So the nakshatras are the stars influencing the moon in a particular slice of the sky. And so this has very much power over our inner experience. And we know from psychology that whatever our inner experience is what we project onto the world. That's how, we see the world the way we are, not the way the world is. We see it from our perspective. So we are constantly projecting our perception onto the world. And this is why, it's this understanding that informed the meditation that came through this morning, that allowing something fresh from our inner space that does not involve our previous experience or our preconceived ideas to inform us about who and what we are is a path. Because in dropping our assumptions, which is virtually impossible, but still worth trying to get some air in there, some space in between our thoughts so that we're not just going in the same tired loop that we've been doing for decades, but allowing some space in there, knowing that that space contains within it the potential for true liberation. It's like the flower that grows between the cracks of the sidewalk. That vitality given the slightest chance to express itself within us, can change everything. And our willingness to give it room, to water it, to cultivate that which will create fundamental change within us that we can't even imagine. To allow our world to be rocked from the inside instead of the outside. And it's our choice to make the investment. You know, the daily, it's depth over time. That's the equation. And we all get obsessed with something. We might as well be obsessed with what's possible inside. Hmm. What else? So I'll share with you that my response to discovering that I had breast cancer was to do Pilates 4 to 5 times a week for the last, since the end of January. And so I've dropped 25 pounds and I'm much stronger than I was before this all happened. So, each of us, I'm going to talk about astrology since that's what I know the most about at this moment. Each of us has in our natal chart the roadmap of our life. Each of us has something called the Atma Karaka, which is like the president of our chart, and that planet uh, determines the underlying purpose of our life in terms of how we respond to challenge. And mine happens to be Mars. So if there's a challenge, I turn into a warrior. and and that so that could be predictable based on astrology, or you could use it to explain how I'm put together, that when a challenge happens, I'll respond in that way. So it's both humorous to see that act out in my character under stress, and also I really appreciate it. I'm so much healthier than I was before this started, so and I have the best doctors in multiple dimensions. I have a Chinese medicine doctor who probably has saved my life by the quality of his prescriptions. One of which is a deep sea cucumber that the divers have to go so deep they can only stay down for 10 minutes. This is scuba divers. And then they have to come up in 2 stages so that they don't get sick. So it's very expensive, but how it works, it's really beautiful. There's a process that tumors, I don't know, I'm just going to talk about it because it's what's coming through this morning, but when a cancer is growing, it sends out a substance that causes it to create a new blood supply, its own blood supply. And that's the only way it can stay alive. And that process is called angio for blood, neo for new, and genesis for creation. So angioneogenesis is the creation of a new blood supply. That's that process. And this cucumber blocks that process. It's a sea cucumber. That's very, very deep. Yeah, it's amazing. And so he has this extract that he has formed into a supplement. And uh, so he told me if I saw him before I had seen Western doctors and even had a diagnosis. And he said if I took his supplements for 3 weeks, he predicted that I would have an estrogen positive cancer based on my hormonal levels before I ever had a mammogram. And said if I took this angio angioneogenesis blocker for 3 weeks, that I wouldn't have any positive lymph nodes, and he was right. So that to me is just amazing. And of course, no studies will ever be done until there's a major shift of emphasis in our culture based on the understanding that there is a lock and key system, biological lock and key system with everything in nature. And that now there's a law that nothing found in nature can be patented. And so no money can be made from anything found in nature. So it will never be studied as long as capitalism runs everything. So, but amazing. Of course, they have studied it in China. But I am relieved not to be spending my time studying cancer, cancer diagnosis and treatment, at least not for myself. Welcome, Lily.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, dear. How's it going?
So happy to hear your voice.
I'm so like, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
nice hair.
Thank you. Much less of it.
You look so good. That's really flattering.
Oh, thank you. I was just telling everyone that I've been doing Pilates 4 to 5 times a week since the end of January.
And with all the Pilates, you had to cut your hair.
Well, they aren't exactly related, except that it started to feel too heavy in every dimension to have all that hair.
Got it.
Yeah. And ready for a change, big change.
So happy full moon.
Today's full moon, yes. Happy full moon to you. It's in Annassa.
I don't know if you've talked a little bit about that, but if you haven't, I'd love to hear your take on today and the planet.
Well, so the moon is in Scorpio. What I said about the moon in Scorpio is that Scorpio is the house in the natural zodiac. Scorpio is the house of transformation. And moon in Scorpio, I didn't say this, but moon in Scorpio is considered to be debilitated. Although by the time it gets to Anharada, uh, Anharada is the nakshatra, the house of the moon, where it's located. By the time it gets there, it's debilitated at 3 degrees, and Anharada is from 3 degrees and 20 to 1640. So it's past the debilitation point, headed towards Sagittarius, where Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter and moon does very well there. And Harada is ruled by the house of the moon, also has a planetary ruler, and Harada's ruler is Saturn. And so Saturn tends to, Saturn is very much about delay and contraction and control and discipline, and the moon is about expansion and expanded feeling and harmony and love. And so Saturn tends to put a crimp on moon style. And Annassa is the nakshatra of friendship. And, it's a bit, Radha is in reference to Krishna and his consort, Radha. And the thing about Radha is it's that kind of love without boundary. So that's Anharada. Friendship hardly contains that. So the thing that's about to happen is that June 1st, Jupiter moves into Cancer. Jupiter is currently in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And when Jupiter moves into Cancer, it is exalted. And that means, well, Jupiter in the house of the moon, Jupiter and moon have a very beautiful relationship. They are friends of the deepest kind. They make each other work much better. So Jupiter expands everything it touches. And so when moon is happy, Jupiter expands that love, that joy, that, whatever the moon has to offer. And so if Jupiter and moon get together in certain ways, they form a yoga that's called Gajakasari yoga, which is elephant lion yoga. And so the elephant is everything expansive and prosperous and, growth, like whatever endeavor is started from this energy will be prosperous. And then the lion is protected, the not only will it be prosperous, but there will be power behind it, real capacity to function. So it's an amazing yoga that happens. And so as the moon moves through the sky, this yoga will be coming and going throughout the coming months. So for those of us with planets in Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, once Jupiter moves into Cancer, that'll be very nice. So that's the astrological highlight for the moment. Anything to add?
Mm,
It's like this is a blue full moon, and it essentially just meaning that it's the second full moon in 1 month. But people, react to different moons differently and suggest different uh, actions to kind of align with the full moon energy. And you know, Cancer is so big in my chart, and I'm ruled by the moon. So part of me is like wanting to feel that alignment with this full moon, but from what you just kind of mentioned, and Scorpio, uh, it's maybe not as harmonious as I would think.
Uh, Scorpio has, it's notorious for being sort of a difficult location. One of the things is that Ketu is exalted in Scorpio. And so some Vedic astrologers say that Scorpio is co-ruled by Mars and Ketu, and that Aquarius is co-ruled by Rahu and Saturn. So that, you can sort of, knowing Ketu, you can see how that could be true for Scorpio. And you're well acquainted with the Ketu moon phenomenon. And what we'll say about that is that Ketu moon, of course, makes people very psychic. It can also make people psychotic. In the Western medical sense of the word. We can see that happening with Donald Trump. He has Rahu's sun in Aries and Ketu moon in Scorpio. So everything's exaggerated. I mean, Rahu's sun in Taurus. So Rahu's exalted and Ketu is exalted. And sun is with Rahu, so Rahu gives him an obsessive need for power. And Ketu moon gives him, he has like a psychic ability to see the weakness of his enemies. Even though he's not in touch with it, he still has access to it. That's why he can literally stall any person with his arrogant judgments in almost any setting, because he just sees their jugular without even knowing he's seeing it. Except the interesting thing, I don't know if you guys saw, there was a video of when Trump met Mandami. And what happened was Mandami completely changed Trump. It's as though Mandami has a coherent energetic field, like he is so completely comfortable in himself that for a moment Donald Trump was comfortable. He never has that coherence. He's never next to anybody with energetic coherence. And so for a moment, he was coherent. And he loved Mandami. He more than liked him. He really completely supported him in that moment. Is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. It's the two of them interacting. What else? How many we served today? We've kind of been all over the place.
Hello.
Hi, what can we do for you today?
I don't know that I've ever spoken, but I certainly have been listening for a great long time and been very much inspired over time of all of the conversations and all of the meditation. So I'm very grateful just to have a connection from afar. My concerns are from the world to the planets, and then mine right now is very personal. For about 2 weeks, I've been had quite extreme vertigo
Mm.
and a lot of leg pain and all of these kind of exhaustion, and it comes after most of the year being quite stressful, and a loss of my brother and extreme challenges at work. And you were speaking of what you do when you get a challenge and how that's really something that can be observed. And mine's often just I also take it it's like, okay, I'll take care of myself along the way and I'll be resilient, and just I'll get it, whatever I've committed to, I'm going to get it done. And then it just all stopped while it was spinning after finishing an estate sale, which was kind of my final goal before letting go of work for a month and taking time away, flying away, and literally. And it's like, nope, that's not happening. And doctors haven't been able to figure this out. And for me, I now I'm just drawn to say, well, what's your take on this? To see if you pick up any information on this.
Well, so what we're going to say is to, instead of fighting the spinning, take your attention into the center of it, into the very center of it. Just allow it to be and get very, very still in that center. And interestingly, where we're feeling that center of gravity for you is the solar plexus. And that somehow your breath from the grief is stuck. So hold your attention, put your finger over your solar plexus. I'm doing that right now. Put your finger at the base of your rib cage. That's where the solar plexus is. So the front of your body, you feel down the bone, which in the center of your chest, which is the sternum. And
Uh-huh.
at the bottom of that, you put your finger and put a little pressure there, just below the bone, so you're not touching the bone itself.
Uh-huh.
And then you take your attention there and you just get really, really quiet. And we're all going to do that with you. Everybody here, put your finger on your solar plexus, because we're going to create a field, and it's going to be like if you visualize a tornado, the tornado's in your brain, but we're going to create a still point in your solar plexus, which is going to calm the whole thing down. And we're all going to do it. So you hold your attention there. All of us. And we're going to stop the merry-go-round. And allow your breath to begin to function again. So when I say breath functioning, it's that you breathe all the way down to your toes. It's all stuck up by your upper ribs. So try to let that breath inhabit your body. And instead of trying to hold the sadness at a distance, just allow it. Allow it. It will not overwhelm you. Your body has built-in guardrails. You won't get swamped. It's big, but you can bear it. Oh, how are you doing?
Well, this whole year, are you there?
Mm-hmm.
This whole year has been very emotional, and there has been a lot of release, and it goes back in time, and and then it comes to the present. But it has been, I think, I thank you all for the time and the energy, because I think that's one of my biggest lifelong challenges, is just asking for help and accepting help. So I know just it finishing with the challenge of an estate sale and all of the memories and all of the exhaustion, that it really was no surprise that my snap point came the morning after it was complete. It wasn't complete. It had to all be left, just asunder. And so I have accepted, just this is how it is. And but when it continues, um, part of, I think, our human self says, is this how my life's going to be? That's not the life I want. It's not the life I deserve, but that might just be what you have to accept. So I have been in a acceptance place and counting my blessings for every little thing of friends and where I'm at, and but basically that nothing matters, of the material aspects, or if I was going to be like this forever, um, of just let it go and let the energy just flow through me, and I'll find a way. So thank you.
Well, we have some more suggestions if you are willing.
Please. Yes, please, and thank you.
Uh, well, we spend a fair amount of time with alternative medicine, as we were saying earlier. And there are two modalities, either or both of which might be helpful to you. One is homeopathy, which is unbelievable in its potential. And we could certainly get you a good homeopathic intake. And the other one is osteopathy, which is about, bringing stillness into the physical system so that it can recalibrate. So what we can say about every modality, every kind of medicine that's out there, is that it all comes from the same potential. And so the limitation is just the quality of the practitioner. So
Uh-huh.
it doesn't really matter what you choose, it matters who you choose and how experience, although experience is not the only gauge, some people are just naturally talented at these things. So it's important that you have a good practitioner. Uh, uh, if you would give me your phone number, I can text you some suggestions.
Okay.
Maybe put it in the chat.
Okay. I will. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I'm so grateful that you are speaking.
It's important sometimes. And also speaking what's real rather than the endless stories and, you know, the everything else besides what's really happening right now. So I appreciate the authenticity that you all are gathering with.
It's refreshing, isn't it,
Yes.
to be real? If our pain's not welcome here, then we're doing something wrong. So grateful for your participation.
Oop.
Do you see the chat at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, I'm going to go to that.
Okay, great.
If you don't want to make your phone number public, I'll just start a private chat with you, and then you can send it to me
Oh, that's
directly.
great.
How about that?
Thank you. Okay, I
Thanks,
will.
Brenda. here we are. Time got away from us. Well, at least we're in the same space. We got that going for us. It has been such a joy to be with you today. I can't remember a program that was like this, but the spontaneity and the depth of our interactions is so gratifying to be with. It's a demonstration of what we were talking about at the beginning, allowing the vitality to poke through in new ways. And who knows what will happen and who can benefit. Such a great gift to be with you all today. We're all blessed, deeply blessed. Thank you so, so much for coming. Till next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
Hmm.